Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Enjoy your empty payroll, boss. So a bit of background before I dive into the story. I'm head of my department, and when the company wins a project, it comes to me for project review with current workload and time frame it's required. If I can't fit it in, then we send it out to a contractor to do. We're bought out by a multinational company after being locally owned, so as with all these situations, more and more scrutiny is now on budgets and meeting budgets thanks to the bean counters. To help comply with this, I'm now told that I'll be involved in job tendering so that if we win the work, the budget should reflect our in-house hourly rate and allotted time I have worked it out it should take. Only problem with this is that the tenders also go out to contractors to get pricing, also as a check, is what they're telling me. Fast forward to a meeting with my boss, and he basically tells me to run my department like a contractor, and if I can't meet the time or allotted budget for the job, to then pass it off to the contractor that's priced it as such, regardless of what's happening in-house, so that we don't blow the budget and have to explain why to the bean counters. Sure enough, as months go by, I don't get as involved in this pricing process as no one comes to me, and the contractor's pricing is what I am told I have to make work, which in some cases isn't too far off internal pricing, I would think, so I push my team and we get it done. Then one day, the estimator comes to me with 2 jobs that he submitted pricing for and asks me if I can check the prices they use for my department's work. I have a look, and the combined price of the 2 jobs is less than what I believe one job should cost to do. Basically, tell him whoever the person that priced that must have been smoking some good stuff that day, and don't come to me if we win it because I can't make it work and you're stuck with that contractor. About a month later, our internal workload's slowing right down to the point a few team members are booking time to training. This is just a code. We book time to upskill, or basically if we have nothing to do work-wise, we'll use as a filler when it comes to internal cleanup or whatever, so it doesn't blow job budgets for unrelated items. I go to my boss asking for more work, basically, as we don't have much going on, and I don't want him coming to me asking why so much training time is happening. His response is, we have these 2 new jobs that we've won, just finalizing the contract, and we'll pass them down for you to review. Okay, great, I think. This will keep us busy for a short while. Couple of days pass, and I see the jobs come through and start looking at them. This is when I realize they were the jobs that had stupid budgets, and I could not make work at all without a big lecture at the end how the budgets were blown. So I pass on them like I was told and let that be that. Couple days later, we have our management meeting, and I inform the room we're pretty quiet, so if anyone has any work, let me know, and I can see what we could do. To this, my boss pipes up and goes, "Hey, I just gave you 2 good jobs. What happened to those? You should be on them." To this, I say, well, you told me to look at jobs, and if I couldn't make the budgets work, to act like a contractor and pass on them. So I did just that, as the budgets were ridiculous. He went quiet, and that was that, so my team kept throwing hours into training until something came along which we could make work. He worked out pretty fast that a blown budget was better than throwing money into training hours, as that came straight out of the company pocket, and he'd have to explain to his higher-ups why our department had a lot of training hours and not much productive hours. Bean counters just count beans. They don't care how many beans there are. It's your boss who cares how many beans there are, because that affects one of his performance metrics. Maybe next time he'll trust the person actually running the department instead of trying to play corporate penny pincher. And our second story. How one woman's stupidity cost her a marriage and a home. I've always loved living out in the country. With over an acre of my own little paradise near Asheville, North Carolina, I found peace in the serene rolling hills and charming rustic atmosphere of my cozy home. It was perfect for me, my horses, and my quiet lifestyle. My gentle Clydesdale, Benny, and my spirited little Welsh pony, Misty, were my pride and joy, offering both companionship and endless entertainment. When my mom faced financial difficulties, I didn't think twice before inviting her to move in with me. It was lovely having her around, and she adored the peaceful surroundings just as much as I did. Life felt perfect until the neighbor's son moved in with his family. Initially, it didn't seem like much of a change, just an adjustment period as they settled down. However, tranquility didn't last long. One bright afternoon, while tending to some chores in my backyard, I heard giggling followed by piercing screams of excitement. Curious, I rushed outside to find the neighbor's two little girls, ages 4 and 7, excitedly squealing at my horses. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the younger girl trying to slip under the fence toward my enormous but gentle Clydesdale Samson. "Hey, stop! You can't crawl under there!" I yelled urgently, sprinting towards them. The little girl froze, startled by my voice. Misty, my spirited pony, danced nervously nearby, clearly unsettled by all the commotion. "You have to stay back," I gently explained when I reached them. "These horses are big animals. They could accidentally hurt you." The girls looked scared but nodded quietly. I walked them back to their yard, relieved that disaster had been avoided. However, my relief was short-lived. Not even an hour later, their mother, a woman named Karen, stormed over, her face red with anger. "Who do you think you are, screaming at my kids? They're just children who wanted to see your animals," Karen shrieked, practically shaking with rage. "Karen, your girls were crawling under the fence. They could have been seriously hurt." "I had to yell to stop them immediately," I calmly explained. "If those animals are dangerous, then maybe I need to call animal control." "You shouldn't even have them if they're such a threat," she snapped, her voice rising even more. I felt myself becoming frustrated. "Look, Karen, this is my property and those animals are mine. You need to supervise your kids. It's not my responsibility." She stomped away, muttering threats about lawsuits and fines. Her husband, Mark, who'd been silently observing the confrontation, stepped forward sheepishly after she went inside. "I'm so sorry about that. She's just stressed with the move. I promise we'll keep the kids away." I nodded, hoping the issue was resolved, but it wasn't long before Karen escalated things even further. One morning, I was sipping coffee on my porch when I saw her storming over, waving a document angrily. "This is an official notice," she shouted. "I'm suing you. Your animals and your property are a menace. You've intentionally endangered my kids." I was floored. "Are you serious? You're suing me because you didn't watch your kids?" She didn't back down. "Yes, and I'll sue you for every penny if you don't make your animals accessible for neighborhood enjoyment. You're creating a public nuisance." "Accessible? This isn't a public park. It's private property," I said, bewildered. I called my lawyer, who assured me that Karen had no legal basis for her claims. To protect myself further, I installed security cameras around the property. Karen became more hostile, constantly glaring and muttering threats under her breath whenever we crossed paths. The atmosphere in our once peaceful neighborhood became tense. Thankfully, karma was on my side. A month later, I noticed a for sale sign in her yard. Curious, I casually asked my elderly neighbors, who told me Karen's husband had become fed up with her erratic behavior. They were divorcing, and the stress of the whole situation had forced them to put the house on the market at a significantly reduced price. A huge weight lifted off my shoulders as the for sale sign turned into a sold sign. The new neighbors, a lovely young couple, adored animals and instantly became friends with me and my mother. Benny, Karen's neglected golden retriever, was taken in by them, and he's now well loved and happy. It's good to see your neighbors stood up for you. So many people love to back up an entitled parent, and it leads to entitled kids. I'm glad it worked out. I guess you'll never see Karen in your pasture again. And our last story. Arrogant neighbor lost his Tesla and his house. So this is a story I heard from my uncle. He's a bit of a hermit, but occasionally visits us for Christmas. I'll retell it as he would, with some extra details for clarity. I live in a very remote part of the U.S., so far from civilization that we don't even have centralized electricity. My only connection to modern conveniences is through my solar panels and a nearby lake where I fish in my free time. It's an amazing place, quiet, fresh air, and no annoying neighbors, at least until recently. Everything was perfect until I got a new neighbor. This guy bought land from an old farmer next door who'd lived there for years in a small cabin. The new neighbor turned out to be a typical city guy, trendy clothes, stylish sunglasses, and of course a shiny new Tesla. He demolished the old cabin, installed a modern mobile home, set up Starlink for remote work, but for some inexplicable reason, thought using a generator, which needed refueling every couple days, was a great idea. Mind you, the closest gas station is 2 hours away. Problems began a few days later when I noticed strange readings on my batteries. Slightly puzzled, I discovered my neighbor had been charging his Tesla at night from my outdoor socket without even bothering to ask. The next day, I confronted him. "Hey neighbor," I said, trying to remain polite, "you realize you're taking power from my panels?" He lazily shrugged. "Yeah, old man, it's no big deal. You have plenty, and it's free anyway." I was speechless. "Free? Do you know how much these batteries and equipment cost?" He just smirked. "Want me to toss you a couple of bucks or something?" I silently turned around and walked away. But from then on, I started turning off the outdoor socket whenever I wasn't using it. The next few days went relatively peacefully, though the neighbor occasionally shot dirty looks my way. A week passed and I thought the issue was over, but I was wrong. One morning I heard a strange voice by the shelter where the solar panels were installed. I rushed outside and saw my genius neighbor attempting to connect something directly to my solar batteries. When I shouted, he panicked, jerked back, and accidentally dropped one of the panels directly onto his own Tesla, shattered windshield, smashed panoramic roof, and a dented hood. He jumped off the shelter and ran away. Haha, beautiful. I immediately went over to his place to sort things out. I knocked and shouted, "Hey, open up, genius! Don't you have anything better to do?" After a couple of minutes, he opened the door, slightly, looking terrified, and started apologizing. Sorry, it was an accident. I promise I'll compensate you. Just give me a week. I'm having financial issues right now." "All right, but this is the last time," I said firmly, already suspecting how it would end. The entire next week, he avoided eye contact, and his damaged Tesla sat lonely by his house, a monument to his stupidity. A week passed, silence. His home remained closed, and the neighbor simply vanished. Apparently, he fled back to the city, unable to cope with rural challenges and his own humiliation. 3 months have passed, and I haven't seen him since. I repaired the panel myself, but the neighbor's Tesla still sits damaged, covered in dust and leaves. A tow truck came a few times, but upon seeing the extent of the damage, quickly left without taking the car. The neighbor's story became a local legend, now shared by old-timers. But the best outcome is I once again live in absolute peace and quiet, enjoying nature and fishing without any unnecessary worries. You know, a small expense for panel repair was truly a minor price to pay for getting rid of an arrogant, thieving neighbor, I reckon. I'm thinking perhaps you should have initially offered him a connection to your panels at a special tariff, say $100 per kilowatt. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.